Okay, we'll call to order,
At
7:09.
7:09.
A couple of announcements to kind of start our meeting. I did want to acknowledge some work that was done at the Prudence Wright Scenic Overlook over the weekend. We had about 12 or 14 volunteers that showed up from Faith Worship Center. They're located in Lomar Park.
Hold on, wait a second. Faith,
Worship Center in Lomar Park.
yeah.
And they did a lot of work, all volunteered, and they also donated a nice native blueberry bush that got planted. And they did the walkway and put gravel down, took all the weeds out. It looks fantastic, almost like when we first installed the walkway back many years ago. And they also spread some mulch, did some weeding,
Wow.
and
How many
it
of them did
really
you say?
looks great.
How
Well,
many people?
I've got a couple of photos that I posted. I want to say there's maybe up to 14 different people. Yeah,
That's nice.
Yeah.
very nice. So
Pe-
it's all
people-
done
that
through
group, if they're
volunteers.
enthusiastic, can do quite a lot of work.
Mhm.
Okay.
And they may want to do some help in the future. We're going
And
to
and
watch
when was
this.
this?
This was on Saturday.
So,
Yeah. Yep. So we want to thank people when they step forward, because it's been a project that was started in the beginning with just volunteers and donations, and it continues to be done largely through the help of volunteers. And we do get Cemetery and Parks that does a great job
Well,
doing some maintenance there.
I suggest and even move that you, that the chairman give you work to do, draft a letter of thanks.
That's going to be done by the town administrator.
Okay.
Mark's going to do
All right.
that.
But I think even the historical commission might add our own thing.
We could do
that
something
that
as
we
well.
appreciate
Mhm.
the efforts, aside from the town,
Mhm.
aside from Mark, that we
And we could do
we
something as well.
acknowledge that
Mhm.
that's an area,
idea.
an area of town that we're interested in. Anybody, I think anybody that we see somebody going out and doing particularly active historic preservation of any sort, we should acknowledge, I think.
Mhm.
Even a private homeowner would take a dilapidated house and really do a nice job of restoring it.
Should acknowledge good work
Yeah, it
when we
wouldn't
see
be
it.
bad, it wouldn't be bad to have that.
Exactly. Well, they've got a good shout out on Pebble Covered Bridge, and there were some photos that were uploaded there, so people can take a look at the volunteers and who they were, some of the work that they did. There's some nice pictures that were taken afterwards. So they also got acknowledged on a couple of different web locations, social media.
Mhm.
Sending them a letter is a good idea too. Really let them know how much we appreciate it. I also just wanted to mention that the meeting is being recorded again tonight. First order of business is the acceptance of the minutes from the March 20th meeting. And Ron has given us a copy and forwarded those to us in an email ahead of the meeting. Is there any discussion, any corrections? I thought that they were accurate representation of our meeting. And I'd like to motion that we accept the minutes from the May 20th meeting as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. I'll take care of getting those posted. For old business, we have a couple of ongoing conversations. Well, one was of relocating the Jacob Baines tablet, and at this point, I don't have a status that has been moved yet. I know that it's scheduled to be done by the DPW, and I will let everybody know as soon as I
Yeah.
get word that that's being
Last time I
done.
drove by there a few days ago, I think it was still in the old
Still
location.
in the same place.
I hadn't
I
noticed.
hadn't gone by in a week or so, yeah.
Mm.
Okay. So
But we're anticipating it.
that is scheduled to be done. And we'll have to postpone the donations review in the hopes that Francine will make it in and we can accept back in some of the donations that she is taking a look at and assessing. And we will cover that by the end of this meeting. We'll move it to the next. And Ron, I think you were going to give a quick update. I didn't mention this about the web pages.
Oh, yes,
and-
I can
yeah.
give you that. I have contacted now twice, I failed to to get a response from Mr. Caddick. I've contacted him twice. I emailed him using our official, email thing. No response. So I was going to suggest that maybe you try and see if he can respond to me, because I basically just said that we voted we would like to be, administering, and which he suggested himself, and I attached his previous offer, which was last year, in which he said that, we could do this, and I said, just give us the key, basically give us the keys, tell us the passwords and what we need, little instructions on what we need to do, and we'll do it. And I haven't heard from him.
I did have a very brief conversation with him,
Okay.
that he intended to get back in touch with you. I
Okay.
think he has a couple of other things.
Well,
going
I
on.
haven't,
And
I
he's-
tried twice, and I
Okay.
haven't heard from him, so.
And he was in
afternoon.
supporting that
No,
that we
I-
would be able to do,
I think
be
it's just
able to
probably
do those
just
edits.
too many other things to do or something
Yeah.
like that.
Well, he said it was, that we were going to be able to do that. We'd actually be able to do the
Yeah, no,
edits
no,
on
he-
our own, and
Yeah, that's.
then he'll send
that's-
the passwords and
Okay.
access
Well, I'm
information.
anticipating that
Yeah,
he'll
so
have
we
that
should
to
get
me
it soon.
And when I do, I will start, I'll upgrade the stuff on there and make sure that we keep it. I'll put the meeting schedule on there and other things, and make sure that that's kept up to date.
So he should be sending it directly to you, because in my conversation, it was
Yeah, no,
directing him to send it to you, and then
that's
you'll
what
give
I
it
told
back to
him.
the
I
rest
told
of
him.
us for
Right,
access.
right, and I'll
So,
keep you informed, and
hopefully that should
again,
happen.
if you have any things you want done to the site, let me, between meetings, email me, and
Mhm.
that's, I'll take care of, do what I can, but right now, no, anyway.
Yeah, I've been keeping a list of some small things, like I saw a few typographical errors.
Yeah, no,
and-
no, I
And so
wonder,
I've got
I
a
wanna-
list, I'll get those to you, and, but like I said, he said he was going to do it right away, so hopefully we'll hear from him
Okay,
really
that's good.
quickly.
Okay, well, I'll anticipate.
Good. And for our next conversation on the Colonel Prescott statue, I had sent out a quick outline. I don't know if anyone had time to review it, but here's a copy anyways.
Okay.
Because I did this today in preparation for
Oh,
our
no,
meeting.
I haven't.
No,
last few
I didn't think
hours.
so. I just did it now. But it's really a working document for us to
Mhm.
follow along, to give us
Mhm.
some structure on the process that we want to go through, so that we can be sure that everybody's clear on what our goals are, and who's doing what, some things that have already been accomplished, so we can have discussions and agreements. And this is to be added to, but just the basic outline for a discussion tonight. So, first of all, I just wanted to say, so that everybody's aware, that on the 15th of May, Corey and I met with the Board of Selectmen, and we received approval to open a gift account with the town and to begin fundraising. And we need to get further along in the scope of the actual statue, the requirements, the foundation, maintenance, cost for statue options, and then bring that back to the Board of Selectmen for a discussion and get approval to move forward. This would likely be on town land, and
Mhm.
so that would be our next steps with the Board of Selectmen.
Mhm.
So I drafted up a project goal, and I want to be sure that the actions that we take fall within an overall goal that we've agreed upon. And we can add or edit this, but I'll just read it really quickly. To follow established procedures to produce and maintain a quality bronze statue in the likeness of Colonel Prescott, to be located in a secure, visible, traffic-friendly location in Pepperell, by working collaboratively with partners and the public to raise funds for the statue and to educate the public about Colonel Prescott and his impact in the Revolutionary War and in the town of Pepperell. And that's quite a bit of information there, but it's written for a purpose.
Mhm.
One of the concerns that came up with the Board of Selectmen was traffic when we put a statue up. We want to
Mhm.
be sure that pedestrians and people operating vehicles, that everybody is safe when we put the statue in a location.
Oh, sure.
That it's secure,
We certainly want to have it blocking
that.
traffic at some point, or blocking visibility or something.
or be in an area where
Right.
people are supposed to be looking at a crosswalk, or, you know, we would
Can't-
take
yeah,
those
no.
into consideration.
Yeah, that's legitimate,
Right.
that's certainly.
Yeah. And we do want to work with partners.
Mhm.
We can identify who some of those are.
Mhm.
Our goal is to have the statue as a tribute to honor him as well as to educate the public.
Mhm.
And it's not just about the Revolutionary War, it's his impact in the town of Pepperell.
That's right.
Which is very
Because he was
significant.
town clerk and
Yeah.
other things in town.
And treasurer and
Assessor.
was the assessor, he was on the Board of Selectmen,
So there you
Committee
go.
of Correspondence.
Yeah.
Exactly, he's
He's very
did
much
quite a bit.
involved in town, not just somebody who just lived here. It was, yeah.
Very instrumental in crafting what our town is.
Yeah.
Does that sound like a reasonable goal that we can agree upon?
Covers all grounds.
Certainly.
That's what I was hoping, it would be kind of all-encompassing.
Yeah.
So, I guess we can, if we have any questions, we can always look back at our goal and say, does this fit our goal?
Mhm. That's true.
Helps us, maintain on track. Some of the partners that I think we've already identified, most we've had initial conversations with, but we still need to go back and further the conversation. And also, there's a couple new relationships that we probably want to set up.
Mhm.
For example, Pepperell Historical Society, the DAR, the VFW, our library, the Bunker Hill Monument Committee
Mhm.
back in Charlestown. They offered to assist us in any
Mhm.
way, and we can go back to them and
That's very good.
bring them on board. Fronic Killick, who's been instrumental in doing some of the
Right.
early on
Mhm.
motivation to get this going. Tony Sabalauskis, who has a
Yeah, he's
wealth
former-
of experience.
Both of these are former historical commission members.
Commissions. Paul Keating, who's done quite a bit with some of the
He's the
historical
one I'm not aware of.
documentation.
Who's Paul Keating?
Paul Keating is my fiance.
Oh, that,
Open disclosure?
Ooh, don't-
Yes.
Paul, I was just
Exactly.
Keating,
He-
is the, I know him as Paul. I
Yeah.
never, did you know his I didn't know his last name.
Keating, yes.
Okay, well,
Soon to
I
be my last name at some point.
I've been introduced as Paul many times.
And
of
so
course,
he
of course.
he walks with me and
No, no,
parade, and we
no, no,
reenact and
I just,
things.
it
and
was funny, because
and
if
he's
you'd asked
done
what
work at
Paul's
the
name is, I
Overlook.
didn't.
He's done a lot with documentation. He sets up.
He was with you when we
Yeah.
did the thing last year at the Overlook with the session.
And
we
he
did.
does a lot of the historical events and things.
No,
So
no,
he
that's-
will. He's offered to
that's fantastic.
volunteer and help
Fantastic.
us.
Very good.
No, those
so-
are good people. I mean, you got it. That's a good group
Good team.
of people, and I think that that's.
But there certainly may be more. That is not a complete list. That was
Mhm.
just a stake in the
Oh,
ground.
that's your start. I
And
mean,
we'll add to that now,
and
right?
yeah, and the hope would be by the end you would have many other
Many
people's,
more.
many other people's. I mean,
Yeah.
if it's still, you'll be a failure if a year from now that's the list.
The list ends there.
Then you're not,
That list is gonna
you're not
grow.
gonna go anywhere. I mean,
Exactly. Right.
but presumably you will have other people on board
Mhm.
with
Yes,
that.
we will indeed.
Oh, I'm sure you will.
And then a couple of completed things so that we can look at some things that we've got accomplished already is we do have a preliminary statue scope.
Mhm.
We have a full-size or a small bust. We have a sculptor that could be used, pricing that we can evaluate, and so the scope is a good start already. We have the gift account set up, that was started today. And we have the revenue and expense procedures that are identified with the gift account. I'll have the actual forms of those tomorrow, although I had passed out some out that were used in the past. I used them on the Covered Bridge Committee. I'm going to make sure that that there may be some updates to that on what we use now with the new accountant. So those procedures, we've already identified pretty much how to do them. There just may be a different form that we're going to use. The postal funds management, if we were to start to collect funds right now from things that were mailed in, we would be able to do that process right now. Although, we're going to look at the timing for the rollout of this project and what makes sense. We are ready to accept some donations almost immediately. And we've identified a treasurer for the Historical Commission, and that is Corey. Just 1 second. And as far as some roles of the treasurer, some of the things that we've agreed upon, and I think that we know are going to be important moving forward, is we're going to get reports from the accountant on the last Thursday of each month. Those will go into our mail slot. Corey, would you be able to pick those up with some frequency on the mail slot here, which is in right next to the conference
Yeah,
room.
what time does the facilities usually close down?
I don't have the exact hours on that, but like tonight's a late night.
Okay.
Mondays,
Just remember, we're not open
Yeah.
Fridays.
Fridays, no, so we have to get the
So,
hours.
yeah.
And then I'd be coming in looking for some of the mail, and I look at things from the Board of Appeals and stuff that come in. But if we have things addressed, Pepperell Historical Commission, Town of Pepperell, Statue Fund, then you know which things you're looking
Sure.
for, right? To be able to get those out in a timely manner, assuming the mailbox, we hope is going to get a number of them, but they would come into 1 Main Street here. Then we'd have a process where you would be able to turn over those funds or deposit those into the gift account.
Mhm.
Happens during business hours as well.
Mhm.
And then do the, any expenses for the statue at some point in the future. Similar things, you submit those on, using a particular form. And I leave those in this slot where the accountant's office is, and
Mhm.
those get processed. So, do those sound like things
Yeah,
you'd be able to achieve?
What I would simply request is do the first one together,
Yeah,
and then I can
sure.
take that from there.
Mhm.
That's all I need.
Definitely, I will be doing that with you, because I'm familiar with, I recently did this on the Covered Bridge Committee, and it's very similar to the process
Sure.
that was used. Then we'd have to review those during our meetings on what came in for donations, any expenses that were done, the balance in the account.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward, and the process has been very simple, one that I've used in the town in the past. And we would get the reports on a regular basis. They automatically show up in the mail slot, and we can make sure that all the numbers make sense.
Okay.
All right. And I'd be happy to work with you on that. I'll get the forms maybe tomorrow. I'll send them off to you in an email.
Excellent.
I thought it was important that we consider an identity for the project and try and maintain a consistent identity. I think that's always been very,
Mhm.
very important in projects like this. In our case, the Colonial Minuteman image is something that's very recognizable, the
Mhm.
statue image of
You mean the
Colonel
one
Pepperell
in-
right
the one in
now.
Concord?
The one in Charlestown does look
Oh,
like a Minuteman,
okay.
right? He's got a
Mhm.
military type of clothing,
Mhm.
right? And so if we had some image that we use in our correspondence, that we put on our, online, and people will be able to quickly recognize some, some symbolism there.
Mhm.
So we could easily use the silhouette of the statue. We can come up with something like that, but having a consistent image.
Mhm.
And then in other situations, the Pepperell Town Seal that we've used in the past,
Right.
and it says Pepperell Historical Commission, Town of Pepperell. Those should be our key identifiers.
Mhm.
That sound reasonable?
Mhm.
Works for me.
In terms of fundraising, as I mentioned, the postal mail can come right to Pepperell Historical Commission Statue Fund, 1 Main Street, with, very important here, in the memo line, Colonel Prescott statue. Because these, we want to be sure that, these are exactly headed for that intent. And then we have to be sure that we're capturing some key information like the donor's name, which I'll mention in a minute. We also, for fundraising, would have event-based type donations, right? When we set up at some events in town, for example, the 4th of July event is coming up. It is right around the corner. We don't want to put the cart before the horse. We want to make sure that we're ready to launch and we have the right information to put out in front of the public. But we do have an event coming up that we could make some statements. We can communicate something there. And we can talk about that, what makes sense. There's also the potential of putting a booth or table in the town field. I think there was also maybe the potential of having an announcement made.
Mhm.
If not right now, we could definitely be doing this in the future. And then, of course, the Fall Festival. So these are some of the events. And we can come back and we can talk this through a little more. What do we want to do, starting right now? There's also this regional public fundraising that if any member of the public wants to make a donation, they could be in neighboring towns. They could be in Charlestown. Those would be the public regional public fundraising is what I'm calling that. And I think we should consider, is that incentive-based at all?
Mm.
Sometimes people want something in return. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. It could be their name somewhere.
Right,
It could be a name on a website. It could be a name on a plaque.
exactly.
The next thing is a business fundraiser. They often want an incentive base.
Right.
They would like,
They want the publicity.
they do.
They do.
And they
That's
will
the-
pay more money for more
Look
publicity.
at companies paying millions of dollars for naming rights to
Yeah.
some building, and
Yeah.
same thing, I
Yeah.
mean, that, just to have their name associated with the statue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is, we need to think of an incentive-based program there. Really in both situations, how do we incent both the public and the businesses? Other terms, other kinds of fundraising, and we've discussed in the past, would be an online crowdfunding, and there are a couple of different things we can discuss there. Fundraising through historians, teachers, professors, authors, and a couple that came to mind for me was, there were a couple of professors that are professors of American history, and they specialize in American Revolution.
Revolution, sure.
Some of these are maybe retired, some of these may not even be alive, because they're getting older, you know, but we've got a professor at Harvard, Bernard Balin. Now, he was
Yes.
big in
Yeah.
Revolutionary War.
He's, what is Bernard now? He's about 90.
I know, he's right there on the
90 or
edge.
94.
I mean, God bless him, I hope he makes
No,
it
the
there.
last time I saw him was he was in his 80s.
Mhm.
He used to sponsor things at Harvard, and I attended some. One time I sat right next to Bernard Balin. How's that for us?
Did you rub elbows? Do you know
I
him?
didn't know. I don't know. I rubbed elbows.
Well,
Although
We'll
it's
need your
funny.
thinking cap, who do you know?
He's educated more historians and probably more famous historians. And one time we were at a seminar at Mass Historical Society, and we were around the room and said, how many of you were educated by students of Bernard Balin? And almost every hand went up. And I could say I had two, that I had two of my professors were students of Bernard Balin. So,
Hmm.
yeah, there was
Yep.
James Henrietta and Richard Bushman, both were teachers of mine in graduate school. But anyway,
Did you hear of Gordon Wood? Do you know him from Concord?
yeah,
He was
Gordon
at
Woods-
Brown University.
Yeah, he's at Brown.
Right.
Bernard Balin just had all over the place. He's his, yeah. But as I say, now he's in well in his 90s.
Right.
Yeah, this is all really good. The two things just came to mind while
Mhm.
hearing this. First of all, one thing you're really gonna have to get soon would be just a simple brochure. Everything describing the project, a nice color brochure, just showing that you can use for any purpose you want to use it for.
Okay.
Anybody's interested, here's the, and then you gotta have a website, you know, somebody's gonna have to set, and
Okay.
with donations from PayPal or some other service. PayPal's the easiest because it doesn't cost anything and it's easy to set up, like Patch. We set up a PayPal donation online, and
Right.
and you can do that anytime you want to donate any money, push the button.
Oh, hold that thought, because we definitely want to get that. That's communications, and
Yeah.
I'm going to just skip
Yeah,
right to
you
that
have the
then.
you have town
Absolutely.
website, but you should have your own,
But the brochure is perfect.
but a brochure, yeah.
So, one place that you could also look is, Wikipedia has historians of the American Revolution,
Yeah.
and it's loaded, they go way back, you know, to Caleb Butler. I mean, they've got all kinds of people that have added
Yeah.
any kind of historical references. But there are also some that are living today that are very good, and it's a good repository to try and track down some people, or maybe even their families, if we think that it makes sense. Organizations would be the Sons of the American Revolution. There's specific American history organizations, veterans organizations.
Yeah.
And I guess the last thing I just wanted to mention under fundraising is to be sure that we're capturing the donor's name, because the Ethics Commission requires that we have the name, we have it publicly and in writing somewhere. So we really have to make sure that we keep that. And we get it off of the check, and we'll have it on the turnover slip that we give to the town, but it will not be in the reports from the town. So it's on
That's
us.
separate, yeah.
Yeah. And now let's just talk about
Yeah.
communication.
Well, no, before the communication, one other possibility of fundraising is, I wouldn't underestimate the possibility of this, is descendants of the colonel himself. In other words, his actual descendants. Some great-great-great-great-great-grandson or granddaughter might be, that's a nice some of these may be fairly well-heeled people that may be willing to throw some money in the kitty just to help just so they can bring their kids to say, this is your great-great-great-great-grandfather here. I'm not just saying, that's just.
No, it's a
It can
great
happen.
idea.
If you can find
It's a
any
great
them,
idea,
or
of course.
If you
Yeah.
can find
Hoping it
any of them.
happens.
Yeah.
No, if you
Absolutely.
find any of them, I would certainly make sure that they're aware of it, okay? You don't want someone to say, gee, if I'd known this, I would have thrown someone, no, you want to hit these people
Well,
if
there
you
might
can
be,
find they are.
there may be a little bit of low-lying
Vanity is such a thing.
that
you
we
know,
want to pick
people-
some low-lying fruit at first, the ones that we might be
People like
sizable
their
and
ancestors and, you know,
Mhm.
and,
that could be
yeah.
a good one.
never know. You never know when you're gonna have, you find somebody that,
Mhm.
would be willing to do that.
Yes, definitely. Are there any other fundraising things? I mean, we could add to this list.
Oh, I'm sure.
This is just to
we'll
get
come
a
up with
discussion
others.
going,
This'll
and
get you started.
this just gets us started, but, you know, we don't want to, if there's some important things, like the sentence of Prescott, we want to get those
That's
captured.
just a thought.
That's important, Ron.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. For communications, there's been a suggestion that we start something to the public for
On
June
Bunker Hill
17th,
Day.
Bunker Hill Day.
Mhm.
It's a very good suggestion that
apropos.
Corey made.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And in terms of communications, we've got the town website.
Mhm.
Cable committee's offered to help us. Various newspapers, Lowell Sun, the Sugar Valley Voice, the DAR, to help communicate the message to Historical Society, the VFW, library organizations, social networking, the web. Specifically, you know, on the web, we need to talk about what those are, a Facebook page, and what do we want to start with and when, and by web, that's, you know, social networking and,
Right. I
And
mean, a
web
good
is
example
website.
would be, once you have that brochure, there should always be some up, at least in the history room in the library, even if they get lost kind of downstairs. It should
Mhm.
always be on the table as you go in the history room, you'd have that. Or even a little stand-up, you know, pop-up thing. you know.
town hall.
Make people, because if somebody shows up in the history room, they're interested, they're hooked already.
They're
And you
already
could get
into it,
somebody
right.
that says, well, that seems like a decent.
That's our audience.
Yeah.
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 For some social networking that we know we have already, we're planned for the Pepperell Covered Bridge.
Mhm.
That has a very wide audience on Facebook.
Mhm.
Pepperell Living History, more of a local audience, but a good following. Shop Pepperell does look at our town of Pepperell as a destination spot with historical assets, and often does communicate about, you know, Pepperell as a destination and historical attractions. So we would put something there as well. Contact has been made to the Neshoba Valley Voice, I understand.
Yeah, I spoke to Ann O'Connor today.
Mhm.
I did set up something with her for tomorrow, but I'm hesitant because I want to make sure with you guys that
Yeah.
with the go-ahead, if it's too soon to talk to her about something,
Yeah.
I did schedule a interview or whatnot at 4 p.m. tomorrow on the phone, but I can postpone it.
Well, the thing is, you could do is talk to her, but ask her to, you know, to delay it for a week or two. That shouldn't be an issue. I
Sure,
mean,
yeah.
Unless she's
There's no
already
rush.
promised something, I mean,
Let me make the contact.
yeah.
Yeah.
Give her the
And
heads
say
up.
you'll be willing to, this is preliminary, I'm gonna get more stuff, I'll get to you, and try to have it out around Bunker Hill Day, maybe in 2 weeks or something like that.
Yeah.
And she'd be, I mean, most reporters are willing to, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll postpone it then.
Yeah, but you could actually start the conversation.
Oh, I
Start,
already.
you know,
already.
Yeah, and then just say, I'm gonna get more, I'll be back to you with more stuff in a week or two. and,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah, I would agree with that, right.
Yeah, so I'll talk
Give
to
her a little more
give her some gist, and then
content about what we're doing, yeah.
she could publish something on Bunker Hill Day. That'd be great.
Yeah, in the week
Mhm.
of that week.
All right.
We'll do that.
All right. Then the last thing was just about content on Colonel Prescott in general, because a big component of this we've agreed is to educate people as well. And we will need to identify some historical publications.
Mhm.
And we've got something completed, which I already entered here already, is that we have the Golden Encyclopedia of American History, which Fronic has given to us, and he sent it to me in a file today.
Mhm.
And there it says Colonel Prescott of Pepperell.
Mhm.
it's a good source for information about him, and it goes into the history of it. And there's graphics, and to me it resembles what's down at the Bunker Hill Museum, which is also a reference for us on specific things that about the battle and the actions that Colonel Prescott took. And I think we want to put that content out there about who he was and what he did
Mhm.
and the value. That's the educational piece. And then there's also, Fronick had done something that he posted on the website, the town website, which was the Bunker Hill Memorial Bench and the 8 fallen that died under Colonel Prescott in the battle at Breed's Hill. And so we have that document that he used, which is very good. So we can start to pull together some content, just depending upon where we want to put that. A Facebook page or a website or exactly what we want to do.
Mhm.
So there's some content that's already come together that's very good. And then we have some content experts, which is, if we can bring Tony on board and Fronick, and so that will help us put together that educational component of what we're doing.
Mm.
So we do need to look at, I think, the communications is an important thing. What things do we want to do, and then how do we want to communicate that? But first, what's the message? What do we want to say at this point? Do we know if we're going to do a Facebook page? For sure. Would we consider doing a website? Remember that websites require longevity, people to maintain them. For example, Covered Bridge Committee website is no longer there because the committee is no longer there. A Facebook page, if it's done right, can be passed along
Mhm.
to another person, and it's easy to do.
Oh, absolutely.
It's very.
The big thing is to have some place, either a Facebook page or something, where you can donate directly, that you can,
Mhm.
you don't have to send checks, that you can do a direct donation with a PayPal account or a credit card. And, whatever it takes, that's what you've got to set that up as soon as you can. Because they get, impulse type things that somebody hears about this, they just find it out and they say, oh, I'll throw $5 in, I'll throw $50 in, whatever. And
Start adding it up.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the hope at any rate. At least you're not turning any of that away. Any potential donations. Make it as easy as possible. So if
So,
people donate.
Are you saying that you believe that we should have the Facebook page when we get the communication out? to
Whatever's
the public?
fastest
Okay.
and whatever's.
Convenience is the key.
Yeah,
Right.
convenience is the
Mhm.
key, and if you can put a link on the Facebook page to the PayPal donation, I don't have a Facebook account, I don't use Facebook, so I really couldn't tell you much about that. I've done
you're a
web
big user,
pages
but I
and
don't do that part of
LinkedIn
it.
and things, but
Yeah, I collect through PayPal, through a website, which is
Yeah.
much different.
that's what I thought,
Yeah.
yeah, because
And-
I've never done.
I have experience with it. I used to do booking and promoting for concerts, so
On Facebook pages?
Facebook was my
Great,
Key
okay, well,
promoter.
then it's just, as long as the important thing is to set up with the treasurer, set up a PayPal account as fast as possible and get it up there.
Would it be
Yes.
through a GoFundMe type of a thing, or
What I'm trying to figure out is, because the difference is that the money should be going obviously to the town rather than to me, and it's figuring, obviously, in a way, I don't want to worry about the conflict of interest issue where it's like, all right, they're sending money directly to his account. I mean, yes, everybody's name pops up on PayPal and stuff like that, how much they donate. So I got to figure out a way on how to get the money here, but at the same time doing it properly.
Yeah.
right? Well,
You
see,
may
there's
want
the
to talk to
thing.
the town treasurer
Sure.
and see if they can, or the town accountant.
If they have an account, actually.
We
if
have
they
a town accountant and a town treasurer, and one of them should know how to do that, because
Mhm.
there has to be other organizations that are getting money online.
Right.
I mean, I know, for example, the fire department sells fire permits online, and they have 2 different ways that you can pay for those online. And there's other bills that can be paid online, so there has to be some way of directing those into specific accounts.
Mhm.
And I'm sure she could, either the treasurer or the accountant
Mhm.
would be knowledgeable on how that's done
Mhm.
in conjunction with you, so.
Right, and whatever we set up, and I know that can get tricky with Facebook, I've had this experience, is when you set it up, you want to be able to transfer it. In the event that you move on,
Yeah.
it needs, and some Facebook doesn't allow you
Mhm.
to transfer. And once you've established a following, you could get, 500 or 1,000 people
Right.
following you, and if you can't keep your Facebook account, you've lost your fan population.
Mhm.
And that's another thing to consider, and I know that's happened to some other organizations, and you have to build up your presence again. So you want to be able to transfer that to a new owner potentially.
Right. What I can do is I can make a general email.
Yeah,
Obviously, keep track of the password. If anything happens, whatever down the road, just whoever wants to take it over, I can write down the email or write down the password and just pass it along. And then whoever can just access it
Yeah,
whenever
you may
they need
want to
to.
have a backup, like
That
Diane
works,
might want to
yeah.
be your backup, and we just
Yeah.
have that, and,
yeah.
have all that information.
Yeah. I'll make sure you guys know the emails and the passwords and stuff
So
like
if
that.
you skip off to Argentina with half the treasury, at least we can.
Argentina.
Right, right. Well, the other thing is,
Brazil, whatever, who else doesn't have an extradition treaty with the US? That's where you
Sounds
want to
good.
be.
we also had the Historical Society that mentioned some partnering
Mhm.
in terms of running some funds through.
Mhm.
So, and they have a nonprofit status.
Mhm. Yes.
So, we want to make sure that it's okay with the town.
Mhm.
Yeah, that'll be the big thing, make sure
Yeah.
that the money goes directly into the
Right.
funds that we
Right.
have in those accounts. And as I said, I think they must have ways of doing that, because
Okay.
there are ways you can pay bills online, and, however, whatever they've got set up for that. It's the same idea, except you're not paying a bill, you're actually just choosing an amount and putting it into this account, and then getting the receipt from the account, so that,
Make contact,
Yeah.
check that and see.
find out how it's being done.
Mhm.
But I know I bought a fire permit online, so.
Okay, we have a backup if we haven't run into any obstacles. We have
Mm.
potentially another strategy too.
Mhm.
Okay. So Facebook page.
I do a
website,
Twitter
yeah.
too, also.
Mm.
Yeah, right.
What else is there? Any others that are really important? Except for Twitter and Facebook are the big ones.
Facebook page would be
The-
Donald Prescott Statue Fund? Something like that?
The other thing you could set up, be a blog to do this, with links to the Facebook, to everything else, and and to Twitter and so forth, which you can do.
Mhm.
You can use a blog on some of the WordPress blog.
Yeah, WordPress is pretty
It's-
easy.
I have some experience with that, but I'm sure a lot of people do.
I
And,
do as well,
yeah,
yeah.
and
It's
that's.
pretty easy to use.
And that's just a nice way of publicizing anything that you've got. You just throw it in there and you get feedback, but the big thing is if you have some event coming up that you know, then you can put links from your PayPal, from your Facebook thing to the blog, and people can see other events, and, you know.
One of the also great things for the Facebook is creating events and inviting people to them, so
Mhm.
people are aware that they exist.
Mhm.
Not everybody checks their Facebook
No.
every day. Well, at least in my generation, well, they do, but anybody else that will get a notification, get an invite, hopefully they check it.
Yeah, and your generation doesn't have any money yet, so. So, we're looking for people more in my generation who presentially have the big bank accounts.
Yeah.
And maybe looking for places to spend it. But yeah, that's why I think it's wise. And just an experience on Facebook, even my generation. Last year I had my 50th high school reunion, and I knew it was coming up, and I didn't get any announcement on it. And then all of a sudden, it was held in October, and it was around August, we get this email saying, we've been discussing a lot of this on Facebook for months now, and we suddenly realized that not everybody in the class is on Facebook. But we did have emails from the last reunion, and so we gave this, and it turned out they doubled the response in a few weeks because of that. I mean, it's the
Right, right.
Facebook bubble.
Yeah.
A lot of people assume that everybody is out there is on Facebook, so it isn't just your generation, it's my generation too. But the trouble is, a lot of people aren't, for various reasons, aren't on it, and the trick is broad, is like everything, newspapers, flyers, pamphlets, Facebook, Twitter. You bombard, to get everybody, you got to do, everything out there. And it's to publicize an event means, if you really want to publicize it, you got to do all of those things and
Nowadays,
all the
yeah.
above. Conventional email listings, whatever. You want to build up a mailing list just of emails, because some people, like myself, I'm probably easiest to reach on email than anything else. I mean, if you put through other media, it may get there and may not, but somebody emails me directly, I have a tendency to look at it and at least, acknowledge it. So,
Yeah.
so I mean, you just got to think of that. And at some point, you may even want to build up a mailing list of direct mail, types of things. You might want to mail out flyers and so forth to a select group of people that
Brochures,
you've
yeah.
identified for various reasons, members of organizations, that sort of a thing. I mean, the Historical Society has about 50 members, of which only about 8 to 10 show up at a meeting. So those other 40 people, you still might want to, some of those may be willing to reach for the checkbook at some point, or credit cards.
Right. If you're on Facebook and you make the page public, you don't have to have a Facebook account, and you can read, but can you still donate? Or do you have to be a member to donate? So that's a good question, because...
No, you can.
You can? I
Because as
thought
long
so,
as there's a
'cause
link,
I did a donation
goes to
before.
a third party in a sense,
That's the big thing.
But there might actually, I don't have a Facebook anymore. I got out a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
But it looks like it's pulling me back in now.
It hasn't changed a lot, huh?
Yeah. So they might now have, might be 100% certain on this. Facebook itself has a mechanism where you can donate money through Facebook rather than pulling in PayPal. If I could be wrong on this.
No,
It's
I
been a while.
used to use PayPal as an
Yeah.
example. I mean, there's, I think, a number of different, and you probably have to explore what the options
Mhm.
are in terms of this. And then, as I say, and whatever it is, has to be linked to the account. And you don't want it linked to you personally.
Right.
Because you really don't want to be liable for any, and you never want to be in a situation where you're trying to minimize the amount of money you're holding in, you're handling.
Of course.
Because
Right,
you're
right.
going to be responsible for any money that goes astray, so you
Right.
don't want it to. So the more that just goes directly into the account without you touching it, the better. I
Mhm.
mean, it's like,
Right. It's going to ask you some questions around
Yeah.
if this is a cause,
right.
is this a nonprofit?
Well, that's the thing. And
So
if
there's
it-
going to be some things that you're going to need to identify when you set up that account and how it's going to
If this
handle.
all is tax
Tax
deductible,
purpose.
which looks like it's going to be, then that should be up front there, that, that any of this money is 100% tax deductible, and,
Mhm.
you're not getting anything in return for this except a warm glow, but we're not going to give you prizes or anything, you're not
Mhm.
you're not getting things for this.
And we did have a federal tax ID that the town had, and we can, this conversation, you should have this conversation as
Right.
well, because some people will ask, if it's especially if it's a sizable donation, you have a,
Yeah.
federal tax
I
ID,
mean,
which
somebody might.
there was one that I used in the town, it was probably,
Yeah.
I think you could still use.
Yeah, and if somebody wants to donate a large sum of money and wants to deduct it, then pay.
Yeah, but that would just require that they get a receipt for their.
But you want to state that up front, that this is not that this is a legitimate, that you got that status. And that's because it's not always clear. If just a bunch of people get together and form a group, they don't automatically have that status. In fact, it took us on the Historical Society, it took about a year to get that status cleared. It's not easy, and they make you jump through some
Not
hoops
easy.
to get it. So, you gotta make sure that, and if the town, that this is actually being run under the auspices of the town. The town
Mhm.
is going to be the fund is going to be a town, right? It's going to be a town
Absolutely, yeah.
fund.
Right to the town.
And there is no, so you get the benefits, because I think this is true in the past. I mean, if you just donate money to the town, I believe it is tax deductible. It's
Mhm.
considered to be a,
Right, and they have a number that's used.
if you
and-
said, I want, when Sterilite built all that stuff for the town of Townsend, I assume they could write all that stuff off as
Mhm.
charitable donations, I mean, for that. And,
You would
yeah.
certainly think so.
Yeah,
Right.
I would think so.
Yeah.
So the same thing, if somebody wants to,
Mm.
put some money into this, sure.
So if you come across, questions, you have to take
Yeah.
those online and start to discuss any questions that come up and how to handle things. And then keeping the page public so that even someone who doesn't have a Facebook account can access it, and you can designate the page as public. And anybody can see the information that we're sharing, which is all what we want to do anyways, right?
Right,
So
that's-
certain things to make sure are done in the setup of the page.
So
Of
you're not
the Facebook.
discouraged by all this?
There's normal stuff.
It's nothing
Normal.
new to me, just
When you put it on a
it's
paper,
more.
it's all, whoa, it's a lot to do.
It's a lot to do, right?
is.
Then
Comes
it's
with the
good to break
title.
it all down.
Yeah, okay.
Comes with the title.
If you're willing
It's
to
right
do
in
it,
his wheel.
if you're willing to do it, then go for it.
Okay. So now say, hypothetical, well, I got a coworker that's much into history as I am, and he's already able and willing to donate, right?
Mhm.
He doesn't care if it's tax deductible or not.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But say he wanted to use that. Now, how do I grant that to him?
Use what? Use a tax ID, a federal tax ID?
How does he get access to that?
Well, we want to make sure that it's definitely can be used. My last
Right.
conversation with the accountant was that that was a valid number and it can be used. But you're going to have a conversation, I think, we'll be sure that nothing has changed now that the account is set up, and you're also going to have, conversations about the, getting the funds in online and best way to do that. So you want to make sure that can be done. And I have the number, I've got the number right here, ready to go.
Okay.
Just want to get everything turned on in the okay for the scope that we're now presenting, right?
You know,
You
I
can't
just
assume that-
thought of one thing looking at this fundraising thing. You don't have anything applying for grants from all sorts of private organizations and things like that.
Oh, definitely, right.
There are patriotic
Mhm.
organizations, there are various, you mentioned, I mean, the groups like the Sons of the American Revolution, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But those are organizations, but there's a specific process that there may be specific grants that are out there to publicize whatever. Maybe there may be a grant somewhere that looks for Massachusetts and the Revolution, or for something,
The one that, what's her name, mentioned from the library?
okay.
It had to do with
Veterans.
veterans, yes.
Yeah,
There's
10,000.
Right.
Veterans, there's Revolution,
Yes, yes.
there's Massachusetts, there's a number of different angles that there might be
Right.
specific funds
You know, we have
out
a
there.
town planner that's
Um,
also helping with writing grants for the town, and
Right.
maybe we could,
And there are groups, I
See
don't
if
know,
we can
Massachusetts
help
Historical
you.
Society, there may be other groups that give grants for various purposes. And there may be some real oddball things out there, that they're just weird things that just don't, publicizing the heritage of the American Revolution or something, really vague.
exactly.
And you might be
Yes.
able to say, would you throw in a few thousand on
Mhm,
I say,
mhm.
oh, okay, then, Prescott, whatever. And again, remember, each organization has its own agenda and its own, which you cannot predict, and it may be in weird ways that this may, fulfill their mission, whatever it may be. It may not be your mission, but it still may end up getting some money, so, it's like,
That fills our mission.
yeah.
And that's
yeah,
one of
I
the
mean,
things where,
That's the where a lot of research, I mean, I wish I had the time to do all that stuff, but,
bits and pieces,
Get
this is an
people
ongoing
to-
project, this isn't gonna happen
Yeah.
quickly, so it's a good amount of money.
and it's a lot of work applying for grants. and
There is a
things,
lot
but
of work in the
people
entire
work on it.
project, and we'll tackle it as a team, and that's why we have some partners too that want to see us be successful. But one of the reasons why we wanted to have the ability to open the gift account and do fundraising is, and this is what's helping other historical commissions raise the matching grant money. to be able to get grants. Because typically you have to have 50%, it's a 50/50, you get half
That's
the
right,
money in a
matching-
grant,
the
but you gotta have the other
matching
matching
grants,
half.
the matching
Well,
grants.
we've never even had a single bit to
No.
even get in the game.
No.
Now, this allows us to do, and this is what's helped other historical commissions, as they now have some money to go out and work with, and they're getting grant money. It's working.
Yeah.
So that is very important, that part of our fundraising is going to come from
Yeah.
matching
Yeah.
grant money.
And
And we
the
need to
thing
look
is-
at what those grants are that we can apply for.
Yeah, and this is the thing that here's an example, the synergy thing, is that this is a statute of Prescott. My personal interest is historic preservation, of buildings and things. And that helps the thing. I mean, because you raise the visibility, you start the mechanisms for raising money, and at some point down the line, this could be to preserve a certain building or to help with a certain building or something of that sort. There could be, structural damage, fire damage, termites or something over a building that people in town really like and would like to see preserved. And, we now have the mechanism in place to do that, and we have some avenues and experiences. So sure, this is great. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's a win situation for the other project. Oh, records preservation that we're trying to. One of the things I'm trying to work on, I still haven't had a chance to do much, is that all the junk that's in the town safe over there, that's rotting away there, and get those records into the library, get them.
Assessors
So
and
that's
payroll records.
so
right,
some of
yes.
this could be, helping that too. So we're going to see.
No.
Right, we're paving the way.
Yeah.
As far as cash goes, so say I did an event, right? Much like the library does with their beer and wine little expo, which I think is a great idea for raising money, because they usually do very well. For every person that buys a ticket, I would have to keep track of their names and stuff like that. Yes, in a sense.
I would say yes, if the money from the ticket is going for a donation. If
Correct.
that's what you're saying.
Right.
Whatever the rules are.
The rules
Yeah.
are in writing and available
Okay.
publicly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they purchase
Yeah.
a ticket, and then I make know who they are and whatnot.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
for
Carries
And I did want to
donations.
mention that in the email that was sent to the Board of Selectmen that I circulated for comments prior to doing that, right? We did last week, right? Are the links to the legislation that says why we were
Okay.
established as a commission, what our powers are, also allowing us to do fundraising, accept gifts, right? And then there's a code of conduct there that it says, but do it along these lines of proper
Yeah.
conduct. And we need to be sure that we've all read that in its entirety, because it's long, but the links are all there. And it will say things like, make sure that you have it in writing. It'll also say, if you expect to do business with somebody, how do you handle that situation? At what, point do you not get involved? When is it
Yeah.
too large a
No, it's going to
gift?
take a
So we have to look at some of those things and be sure that we're trying to follow procedure,
right.
right? And so any questions, we should at least look at that, because that really spells it out pretty well. And it wasn't too difficult, but some little caveats there that make sure that you're following this conduct. And we want to be sure that we're doing that, because that's one of the good reasons about having a town organization. We have procedures that we follow. We keep things, so that it's visible and open to the public.
And I think it's, as I said, this is good experience for future projects and future historical commissions. You can say, well, that the statute, and it gives us that body of experience that going forward, the future commissions will be able to use that for other projects. I think that experience, because we've never done this before. We have never, the historical commission's never raised any money. It's never done anything along those lines. And I think there's certainly a lot of, we've talked about other things in the past, community preservation and those other community, what's the grants that we were talking about before? What's the tax thing that we,
Tax grant, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
What is the name of that? The fund that you can get from the real estate taxes that the towns can vote on,
Oh, the CPA?
the CPA.
Yeah, community preservation.
Right, and we've never done anything like
No.
that, we don't have anything like that. So this gives us experience in that direction. It's not the same type of thing,
Mhm.
it's still gonna be a lot of what you're talking about for a project would be the same. Let's say we had a specific building we were trying to save.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You'd be pretty much following the same
Blueprint for
guidelines,
it.
same blueprint, and then we would have that experience going
Mhm.
forward. So that's good. This is a good, something we've never done before. I think we should. So that's,
Right, right.
I think this will.
Set up some best practices so that we
Yeah.
can continue to.
And we'll know how to do this.
follow
And
this.
once we get the ball rolling, it's going to be a lot easier the next time to do something like this. We'll know what's involved, and we may get a position where we actually can, do more historical preservation or of various sorts. So.
Mhm. Any other pressing things? I'm gonna do a quick summary so that we look at kind of like what our actions are. But before that, we need to discuss through, there's so much.
Yeah.
I'm feeling that there's just a lot. To break it down into some manageable pieces and get a few things going. But, we have some questions now. If we get out something for launching for Bunker Hill Day, it would be in a message to the newspaper about, hopefully, a fund that exists and a way to make a donation there, or a way to make it to postal mail, which some people still like, the old snail mail,
Oh, no. You gotta
which
have
exists
different-
already.
gotta
So we have that
all different
message, right?
ways If anybody wants to.
We may have a Facebook message and a funding mechanism message. We certainly know what our goal is for the project. We may not know where it's going to be, and that really the message and the passion behind the message is there. Appealing to people's passions around Colonel Prescott and our town. We can direct them to the Historical Commission email for more information that exists today. Okay, so we do have enough to at least get an announcement out, and that's good. In terms of the next opportunity to really communicate, which would be the 4th of July parade, I was going to be out of town.
Yeah,
I changed my
I will
plans.
be out of town. I'll be in Seattle on the.
Corey convinced me to change my plans.
Yeah.
He goes, "You're going where?" Oh, yeah.
I wish I were able to be around, but
So, well, that's all right.
alas, I will be in Seattle.
I have a banner that was done for the Charlestown Bunker Hill Parade
okay.
that says, I think it says, Pepperell, home of Colonel Prescott. It lists the 8 fallen men that died. I'm not sure what else is there, but a recognizable Minuteman statue, symbolic of what we'd like. And it can be carried in the parade. It says nothing about a statue, but it gets the motivations and the thinking going. It will be right after the announcement. People will make the connection. We could do something else, and I'll mention a few things. I'm willing to make a donation for something like a magnet, which I had done before, not many, small little magnets. People like them, and they have the picture of the statue, and it could have the Facebook page, and time permitting, some small bits of information on the magnet. Not a lot, but enough to give to some adults, and I've selectively handed those out when we were raising for the Covered Bridge Committee, and it was well received. Postcards was another thing. We don't want things that get left for trash.
Literally.
Even though people like it, but they still may drop it. So we wouldn't want that to happen. And we wouldn't want to be raising money. I personally don't think that that's the appropriate venue for it. And we could also have a sign that says something about the statue coming, or the fund,
Mhm.
or direct them to a Facebook page. Just a little information that plants the seed. And that would be my suggestion would be small step on that. There's also the booth. We could be at a booth and with with some flyers and a jar and
Yeah,
information.
And the chance for those booths include the farmers markets and the concerts
That's
on
another one,
Tuesday.
good one.
The Tuesday night concerts, band concerts that they
Uh-huh.
have during the summer. And they have,
Okay.
booths are set up there for various
Mhm.
organizations.
You can talk about
So
your
anytime you want to,
organization.
you can have enough people, you can do it. And you say you have the publicity, you have the thing, you can have a jar out there. They will, there are things, with the Businessmen Association, the deal we had with the Historical Society was if we scooped ice cream out, it was free ice cream, it was donated, but if we scooped it out, we could put up a donations jar. And I think we got something, $150, $200, something like that. People were
And
throwing
we had a
$5.
great time.
It was free ice cream, but people were throwing in $5 bills
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff when we scooped it out. And they did like one organization per concert was given the thing of that, and that was the deal. And so we had about, you were the ones who did that?
I did, yeah, it's
Yeah,
fun.
so what we had about
Had ice
5 or
cream all
6 of
over
us
us.
doing, we had ice cream all over us, but we
Free
scooped
ice
the ice
cream.
cream out, free ice cream for people,
That's
and
great.
they were, remember, they were keeping the jar, they were throwing money in the jar all
And-
night. Yeah, that's
We
how you
got-
do
we
it, you
got
raise a few
donations.
$100s at a time, but it also got the, people know about you and all that, you make sure that
Get out
they-
there in front of people.
Right.
Now, if people are donating lump sums like that, how does that?
Well,
We have to
they,
find out how I don't know how we record, like jars and stuff, because
Yeah.
every organization has the classic, bottles and,
Yeah.
kids collecting money and things like that. So I don't know. If the school wants to kids want to donate quarters and stuff, I don't know how you'd have to ask, how do you handle, small
that'd be an
bill
ethics commission
denominations?
question.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't believe you say, well, we don't do that. Well, come on now, everybody.
It's being done, this is what
Everybody
other
does that
commissions are
type of-
doing.
Well, not just every
Yeah. And
organization.
organizations do that.
What
yeah.
charity doesn't do
Yeah.
that? The Jimmy Fund, or anybody doesn't have boxes and things, and how many times you go into a restaurant, and there's a,
Oh,
for
penny
whatever,
jar.
donate to the firemen's, or whatever
Right,
organization.
right.
So, there has to be some way that they can.
Maybe there's
handle
a threshold, a dollar amount, because usually significant gifts are over $50.
Yeah.
The business
According
could
to a
take
lot.
it. The business could say, since it's technically on their property or whatnot, they could take credit for it.
Whatever, I don't know, I have no idea how that's done, but
I
it's
think
certainly.
we should probably be sure
Right.
with the Ethics Commission that there's going to be this type of fundraising.
Mhm.
Is that under the threshold? It's not a significant amount, and I think
Right.
that is where they have a
Exactly.
cutoff is.
I know in a
dollar
lot of
amounts.
the ethics rule, it's $50. For example, you can accept a gift even if and it's not considered under $50, a one-time gift from, or over a given year, a total of $50.
Mhm.
And it's not considered a bribe or anything of that sort. And so I wonder and something in the back of my head, when I ran for office, there are similar rules of campaign funding. And there is an amount, and I think it is $50, that you don't have to report every single, just to allow $1 and $2 donations. And for political raising, I think it's in that time, this is 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I think it was something like $50
Right,
threshold.
right.
Any donations of any,
Mhm.
in combination. So if somebody gave you $1, if they gave you over a period of time $50, you had to report that once, but
Right,
or
right.
something like that.
Well, certainly if you have any business dealings, or expect to have
Right.
business dealings with somebody,
Exactly.
and they want to donate over $50, a red flag should come up, make sure you handle that process
Exactly.
a little differently.
Yeah.
Would you like me to make that call to the Ethics Commission and follow
If you
up on
could,
that?
that'd be great.
Yeah, find out, I'm just interested in knowing that myself, what are the ethics of that sort of thing?
Yeah. I will go ahead and
Small,
do that.
small donations from lots of people.
All right. And I think basically, as far as partnering, it'd be good to go
But to-
relations with the Historical Society. Wendy was here and from the DAR and is very interested in what we're doing. I'd like to go and have some more conversations with some of the organizations we want to partner with and see what their ideas are and how we can work together. So the Historical Society would be one that I would go back and contact, the DAR. I'd like to speak with them. I'd like to speak with the library. Maybe you want to talk with the VFW. We can kind of break those up. I'll follow up and try and make contact with Tony, I just might be seeing him. And so we can kind of break down the partnering list of people and start to make some contacts there. I would like to come up with an image if sorry about that, if no one minds taking a stab at, I want to say an icon or something with Colonel Prescott and send it around and see what you think.
Okay.
We could put it on some of our correspondence and maybe a brochure and
Trying to think
Sure.
of a good one.
we've got elements to put into it, but thinking of something silhouette, a recognizable statue that we all know from
Would it-
Charlestown.
Would it have to be original to avoid copyright infringement in a sense?
And I would, I would
so-
say.
It's a tough one.
That would be important, so I've got some photos
Well, yeah.
already that wouldn't be a
Unless it's
copyright.
before 1923, in which case it's public domain.
So I can
Yeah.
snag something from John Trumbull, maybe?
If you took a,
Oh,
they could just say
okay.
if you took a picture of a statue made before 1923, that would be fine, or an illustration that appears in a book before 1923, it's
Right,
public
right,
domain. So,
Right. Well, I was thinking of the statue that we have already, which I've got many pictures of from visits into Charlestown, and that can be used without an issue. Work in,
yeah, and it's
Capital
not clear, it's
Historical
not clear
Commission.
whether
I don't know.
statues, are copywritten if they're
I
not
know.
specifically copywritten, and it usually didn't put a copyright notice on a statue. So if your picture of it, it probably and if it's in a public place, it's paid for with public funds or something, it's probably, I don't know. The worst that can happen is you can be asked to take it down.
Exactly.
If it's on a website
Yeah.
or in a flyer or
Mhm.
something, they can't claim any real damages, because you'd have to say, what money are you making?
right, what
You're not
damages,
selling the
right.
statue, so it'd be pretty hard to say.
What injury or loss did you take? as a
Exactly,
result?
exactly.
Yeah.
So in that case,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, now, if it was a picture of Mickey Mouse, yes, the Disney organization would come after you
Mhm.
with all guns or something like that, shut you down, but I can't see a statue of Colonel Prescott, if anybody's going to,
Yeah, I'm very sensitive to copyright,
No,
and so
you
I'll
should
try,
be,
yeah,
you
be
should be.
careful on that, yeah. And we do have to be careful in all senses. When we put together the content, we've got to be sure we have source information like, Phronic's original writings and the Golden Encyclopedia, we have to say where these sources are.
Definitely, definitely.
So we have to make room for that in our publications. Yeah, always need to do that. I could start doing something in that. Just looking down the list. So what are our thoughts about the 4th of July parade? What do people think?
As I said, I won't
Or
be
walk.
here, so.
Any of it?
I mean,
Who can do it? What do we,
I could, you know, just educate the living daylights out of my wife on the whole thing, and she can go to the booth while we walk.
Oh dear.
well, the booth will be after the parade.
Okay, then we can do
So that won't be a problem. Yep,
Okay.
they're kind of linear in the events, and then there's the 4th of July fireworks, and then they do a recognition of veterans, and they read off their names, and maybe they'll do an announcement then.
Mm-hmm.
You could have that.
Yeah.
You
So
gotta
that's
just
a-
think of what you're gonna have in your booth, that's gonna be the big
Yeah.
thing.
I've always got this question in mind to maybe attract people. Is would you want to be part of history or something like
Mhm.
that? I mean, okay,
Sounds
well,
good.
some people might be attracted by that question. What do they got going on over here?
Is it time for a statue, is what
Us.
I heard someone
It's
say. Is it time?
Yeah.
It's overdue.
And as I said, hopefully you'd have something you can
Yeah.
pass out to people.
Certainly would
with
have to be a
important things-
flyer, yes, have
A
to have.
flyer
some-
with important things like
Yeah.
addresses, Facebook page, anything that, so they can find out more information.
Right, right.
and-
That
or
has
show
to be
somebody and say, what
available
would-
before we make the commitment.
Yeah, Yeah, but you have to have something to show people, and if you can, like the stuff that we had at the covered bridge, you need maybe something to put on the table that you can.
I forgot it. And we do have a printout, which was the one, I'm sorry, I'll have it for you. But it's the thing from the encyclopedia. It's about this big, it's beautiful colored graphic.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
And
that
it is
needs
something that
releasing.
would be read, and it can also, Paul offered to dissect,
Oh, cool.
separate
Cool.
the sections of it.
Okay.
And so then, what do we do with it in time, though? Because then you gotta print it out, and it's colored, and
Yeah, we had
the
some good
easy
stuff.
part is
We had
pulling
some
it
good stuff
apart from a
last year.
file, because what we just basically do is use a sniping tool and cut it out,
Mhm.
with source information on it, right? Because we're taking apart an original source. And then you'd have multiple things. We do have we do have a great big banner. We could
Fantastic.
get a flyer. We can make a jar. We need enough information on the flyer, though. The flyer must have content
Mm-hmm.
on what our strategy is, right? So really, it's all about,
Exactly.
did we, hello,
Right.
did we get, the Facebook lined up? If we only have a postal mail solution, we don't have the enough, and we wouldn't probably want to go forward, but at a minimum, I'm gonna walk with a banner. And we could have something about, there's a statue coming.
We can persuade Frantic if he's around to dress up like Colonel Prescott.
Oh, wow.
I know he wants to.
Oh,
I know
wow.
he
Do you
wants
think
to.
so? Okay, I'll let you work on
Even
that.
better yet if you get a horse and ride a horse.
Oh, that'd be awesome. They do it in Lexington and Concord. Why not?
That would be impressive. Tell him I thought the idea. Get on a horse. I don't know if you can ride
He'll
a horse,
know
but
who.
you can there.
Right.
Wow. that
He can learn.
And
He's
if
got
you-
time.
would be
anybody
very
who-
impressive.
Who wants to walk in in the parade. My hands will be full, I'll be carrying the banner. Probably won't be able to pass out candy,
Yeah.
but this is more,
Yes,
really, this is
I wish I
important.
could be there, just if nothing else, just to see this, but, yeah.
Well, I know you go a lot, and we have a great time when we do the Historical Society. We walk usually in front or behind the DAR.
Yeah,
It's
last
always
year.
a good time. But so we'll still need, if we did a sign, somebody would need to be walking, holding that, or if we had any kind of information, it would need to be, there has to be
Yeah,
a
well,
body. to do that.
last year I walked the whole thing, which was, I've
I'd,
always
yeah.
ridden in the things.
I could walk with you and hand out flyers to the public
Mhm.
right then and there. Because that's what a lot of people do, the advertisement on the streets. They'll hand out anything, business cards,
Yeah, it's true, but
political stuff.
people drop the trash, and that's the one thing I'm sensitive
Right.
to.
Yeah,
That's why I thought, if you give them a postcard, they keep it, and I've done that. If you give them a magnet, they keep it. And you don't get a lot of magnets, right? Because that's a lot of money.
yeah.
Those things cost a lot.
They-
But
I'm
I'm willing to,
not-
get the ball going, if that made sense.
Mhm.
Or it could simply be a sign that said, something, or a banner, or a small paper means small paper on the ground. If we have trash pickup, because I would feel that we would need to be involved in the cleanup, because people
Mhm.
will inevitably dump it.
Yeah.
Great, read it, love it,
See it.
unless there's something on it that's of value, as a takeaway, it'll become organic.
Well, there'll be a big headline that says, "Want free money?" and everybody will keep it.
Turn this in for something, I don't know.
dear.
No, so that's what we really have to think
Mhm.
about, but, there's gonna be at least the message that Colonel Prescott's from Pepperell and get
Mhm.
people thinking.
Mhm.
But I think something behind that message, because we're probably, we're gonna have something out on Bunker Hill Day. It would seem to be missing, in my opinion, to not have something, even the slightest hint that it's coming. And I think of planting the seed. Not necessarily directing or what, just rah, it's a motivational thing. So that,
Should definitely get in touch with the Bunker Hill Monument Committee on that. Definitely.
yes. Tony?
Do a video.
Cable's
I'll do a video.
doing a
The
video.
Pepperell 4th of July Committee and I have been doing monthly videos in the run-up to the 4th of July.
Yeah,
and I've been placing it on the YouTube channel for Pembroke Community Media, and also running it in a regular schedule on the 2 channels
Yes, yeah,
to get people involved. And I
okay.
was gonna point you out that the Pembroke 4th of July Committee also has a website where they have GoFundMe and they have the PayPal. So you guys probably wanna check out the 4th of July, Pembroke 4th of July website
Mhm.
to see what they've done. But
Mhm.
the video is what I've been doing monthly since January, just to keep people thinking about donating to the Pembroke 4th of
Yeah,
July Committee. You
yeah.
guys should do the same.
Video and then some postings on the cable channel so that people will
You could do
see that as
something
well,
for the June
right.
17th, start off with what Colonel Prescott was all about. Well, I don't want to get into it.
Yes, yes.
We can talk
Good
after.
ideas, though, yes.
No, it's excellent.
Thank you.
Cable and would be then another venue for the Bunker Hill Day announcement.
Mhm.
Yeah, we need to do that as well as the newspaper. Be sure, and the town website too.
Mhm.
So those would have to be hit with whatever we create.
Right.
All right.
Okay. Website. Cable post. Video can even. I wonder if you can videotape some of what's down in the Bunker Hill Museum. I wonder what National Park Service feels about that.
Well,
Because it's fabulous. Goodness, they reenacted on a small, well, it's really not small scale model. It's probably half the size of this room. In a model with sound and voice, and it shows the whole approaching battle and
hmm?
things. And, yeah. So that's something to consider. Anything else? As far as this discussion goes, I think that's really going to close our business for today. We'll continue to conduct this project through emails, and when we come to any major decision points, we'll bring it back into the meeting.
Okay.
I did want to also give this to you, Corey, because we were looking at maintenance, and typically the statues, US standards are, a bronze statue is going to be 90% copper. From what I did in some research, and it's not a lot of maintenance. You can use citric acid, lemon juice, right?
Mhm.
All natural, organic ways. You can use a good soap and water. Typically, you don't use very much more than that. Other things take off the patina. So it depends on whether you want the statue to be green or you want it to look bronze, because it'll age on its own to green, on what your maintenance is. But either way, it's usually not a lot of maintenance. You're washing it, you have to wax it. And that is what I recall was a discussion I had with the National Park Service when we were down in Charlestown. And they take the statue out, they do it on some time frame, they clean the green off. And I thought that they used a similar, simple, natural method as well. And then you get the wax, polish it down, and then it weathers pretty well. And that's not a lot of maintenance, and it's not really a lot of money. But really, to get some more detail, I thought you might want to follow up with the gentleman that does the statue of Colonel Prescott, who was involved in it. This is the National Park Service, the preservation specialist, Steve Carlson. And here's his phone number. And we find out more about what they're doing with the statue there, although they let it get somewhat green, but I think then they try and clean that off
Mhm.
so that it looks like
I think I've actually
Wow.
seen a time lapse of them cleaning the statue itself on YouTube.
there you go.
Yeah.
Right, there you go.
I mean,
Yeah.
is it even possible that, say, somebody like me could donate my time and clean it myself, you know?
Our
That-
statue?
Yeah.
We may need some volunteers in terms of maintenance in the future.
Yeah.
We may want to look at the foundation being poured by local vendors who may want to come forward. Because it's simply, you just need to have a quality base because it's a heavy statue.
Mhm.
It's usually not very fancier than that.
Yeah.
It may need to be a certain thickness to prevent the settling, and we get those recommendations. But the actual foundation is usually pretty simple. The statue's where the money is, and the maintenance is generally best kept very simple. And they may say use all these products, but that doesn't necessarily mean, that the natural method is not a better method. You can take off natural patina, and you can actually injure your statue and hurt it. And we should probably look at what other towns have done, any best practices on what's working and what to avoid. But there's products out there, but they're not necessarily the best things, to really use. Sometimes natural approach
Is the best.
is the best way, and it's certainly probably going to be the cheapest method. But it would be good to hear what they're doing, how often they feel that it's necessary to do.
Mhm.
I'm sure they've established best practices in the National Park Service. Other towns would also be good to talk with. A statue sculptor is probably going to have some very good
Mhm.
recommendations too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to probably Mr. Alfano personally, myself, tomorrow or something like that, because ever since Fronix talking to him probably of last year, he's gotta get him up to date with what's going on. That we've selected him, we've picked him.
I'm moving ahead.
Are we for sure that we're picking him? Because I was going to actually see if that's something that we need to evaluate further.
Sure.
Should
If you
we
want,
Well, I think
talk with another person so that we have more than one bid? Seemed like a good
that's the other thing. I
practice.
don't know what do any bidding laws apply to this or anything else that,
Certainly think that we would need to be comparing it to someone,
Right.
especially not being as knowledgeable,
Yeah.
and that we will need to take a vote in this,
and at some
in the
point,
meeting.
well, before we take a vote, I think we would have to have a formal presentation from whoever we're going to
Certainly.
hire. We-
Yeah.
And, which would become part of the contract that you would have with that person. I mean, you would have I would just imagine it would be some, a description of what they plan to do and, what materials, everything, the time frame, all the thing of that sort of a
Mhm,
thing.
mhm.
Before we vote on it, it'd be irresponsible for us to vote, spend X amount of money without it. But I think we ought to find out, do bidding laws apply? Whatever, I don't know any of this. I mean, what procedures we have, again, with the ethics or something else, we may have to decide how we go about that.
Right. It seems to make sense that we should have other competitive information,
I think so. I think
Yeah.
we should have some idea of is there anybody else out there that's,
and then,
what are the,
like Ron said, we get a formal presentation, ask the right questions, and gather knowledge as well.
Right.
Then make a informed vote in the commission meetings.
I know when the planning board was interviewing candidates for the master plan review, and this was fairly substantial, I think it was like $100,000 contract. I think we had 3 people that we were selecting from, and all of them made presentations. They came in and gave the whole dog and pony show type. And this is days more before everybody started switching to PowerPoint. But they actually had boards with, this is what we're going to do, these are our steps, and so forth. And yeah, so we probably would want to have, it'd be nice to have at least 2 people, even if we kind of leaning towards one, to have another presentation.
Mhm.
Yeah, this is
And
smart.
to see what they could do. And the other thing is, we may discover on a second candidate, there's options we hadn't even considered with the first one. They said, well, yes, there's a conventional bronze statue. However, there is also, did you know about this technology that's been developed? And it's been developed in Brazil or Japan or something, and I'm willing to work with this, and you may have a different cost structure with this, or a different time, whatever. I mean, we don't know these things. And without a second person, so yeah.
Yeah, this is new for
I think
us.
it'd be good to see if we could get a second, at least another. I'd be more comfortable voting to spend money before we have, when we at least have, know something out there.
Mhm.
Does that make
Right,
sense?
and we
I
are-
mean,
Yeah,
think-
I agree.
absolutely.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I think this is what we need to do.
Mhm.
I didn't want to move too far ahead on that part of it just yet. And
Mhm.
once we get to expenses in general, we're going to need to review those
Exactly.
here and be sure that we should be paying things. There'll be some that we expect. Anything unexpected, anything out of the ordinary, anything
That's
amounts
right.
that don't go the way expected
And then,
have to come back in to be,
and then in the
Voted
end, there'll
on.
be details like actually writing the contract, and you may have to have town council review that or anything like that if we sign a contract with somebody, because presumably what you're gonna have will be a payment schedule, that you'll start off with a down payment, then you
Yeah.
pay a certain amount when it reaches a certain stage, and then we really gotta be, sure that we're not just giving somebody money who may abscond with it or something. We would be in really serious danger if, somebody halfway through the process. So we have to work about what are the bonds, what are the other things that are set up
Mhm,
on a situation.
very
like
good
that.
point. Yeah.
So I mean, these are all the details that will have to be worked out at some point.
Now, that being said, so say I get two more, or I get 3 candidates for this, right? Now, in order to get 3 presentations from them, would that require all 3 of them come in at once? Well, probably not. But,
No, they make separate presentations. They may be on the same night, it's possible, but they do a separate, each one comes in, does its presentation. At least that's the way the planning
Okay.
board did it.
Okay.
Memory was, I think we did it on one night, but it may have been like over, 2 sessions, there were different people coming in.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, that's what they do, and yeah, I mean, but I think we gotta get a lot of guidance though on how we proceed on this. And again, the big thing is, I have no idea whether bidding laws apply on this. I mean, what we were doing was a master plan, which we had some, I think we had, it wasn't state funding, it was some economic development office funding or something like that paid for part of it, but most of it the town was paying for. But in a situation like this, with funds being raised and everything, I don't know
Right,
whether,
right.
there may be that no particular laws apply in terms of bidding or anything, we just arbitrarily pick anybody we want to, I don't know,
Mhm.
but we should find out. That's where Mark Andrews or somebody else,
We've got to go
should be
back to
able
the Board of
tell us.
Selectmen
Oh, yeah.
anyways, yes.
Yeah,
and
I think they gotta
multiple
tell us-
times.
They gotta tell us on this, because we want their guidance on this too, and, and I know they're gonna say the same thing. I mean, before we vote this, we have to know what we're getting for this, and, whether we're gonna, to make sure the money's spent wisely, blah, blah. I mean, that's the same thing whether you buy a fire truck or anything else, and I'm sure there are procedures you follow, and then when
Exactly, right.
the contract gets reviewed, that sort of a thing.
Anything specific you want me to tell Ms. O'Connor tomorrow via phone? Anything that stands out more than the rest, would you say?
Well, I think that she should know that on May 15th, the Board of Selectmen
Mm-hmm.
give permission for a gift account.
Correct.
There's a statute. You can share with her the email that is the background document that the Board of Selectmen got, which talks about Pepperell does not have a recognizable statue, but Charlestown does. So
Sure.
really, and that this is something that's brought about from the desire of the people and the public. So the contents of that is certainly valid.
Mm-hmm. The launch date? Or is it too soon?
Well, Bunker Hill Day being a date that will announce it to the public, I think we can announce this.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think we just won't have all the details.
Sure.
But we'll have
Draft
some of them, and we'll
announcement.
let them know what some of our intent is.
Exactly.
We intend to, Facebook,
Mhm.
even though it isn't all set up, just looking through this list to see what does make sense that we, partnering, you could give her a conversation about who we're gonna partner with. We don't have all these names, we do know some, and we're gonna partner with the Historical Society, and and the library and different organizations and historical people. Let's see. And those are the things I think that we know for sure. It wouldn't be an issue, and then we'll see what else gets confirmed by then. But you may want to, kind of give her initial information and then have another follow-up conversation. And in 2 weeks, we'll make progress.
Yeah.
We'll be further along. And
Okay.
ask them to help us get the launch out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the messages that we are giving to the newspaper is also the messages that will go on the town website, some form of content, and cable,
Mm-hmm.
post on cable. So we do want to get the message to the newspaper and then our basic communication message soon. So
Okay.
you're right to want to know what that is. We have part of it. It'll take us a little bit of time, all right.
Okay.
Next meeting?
Next meeting.
When, we may have meetings more than the every other month that we do right now. We'll
Wanna
have them as
schedule a
needed
separate
now,
one?
That's what I was.
as things that we've got
gonna-
scheduled, yes.
But when's,
Sometimes when you're in project mode, we need to do things a little bit
yeah,
more often.
Mhm.
frequently. 2 months from now would bring us to the 3rd of July for the first Monday, I do believe. Roughly.
I won't be here for that, so.
2nd of July for the second Monday. That's usually the Historical Society's meeting, so that won't
Yeah.
work. Okay, let's just back up.
I won't be here in the first week in July until later in the week.
What if we went to the end of June? End of June would pretty much be, what, 2 months? right?
Yeah,
Oh, wait a minute, no, that's not, I'm sorry, what am I saying? That's
No.
not right, so we're in the middle.
we're in May.
May,
We're the
June,
end of
July,
May, so the
yeah.
end of July.
End of July, I'm
About
sorry.
third week in July, maybe.
Exactly. What am I doing? June.
24?
The 24th, well, that would be pretty much 2 months, you're right.
Yeah. I could do.
I'm good.
I should be able to do that.
July
As far as I
24th.
know.
I'm gonna know where to be.
Yeah, I think I'll be around. And hopefully we can get
Sorry,
Francine or Dean, but.
didn't bring my calendar. But I will set it, and I'll check to be sure I don't have a conflict.
Okay, I'll put it tentatively down, and we
Yes,
can
and then
change it
we have to
to
check with, try and get a quorum, so we want to make sure that,
Dean and Francine,
Francine,
or hopefully.
especially if
Nice to have
I'm
all 5
not.
of us here, that would be.
exactly. But I do want to just make sure that we get minimum, get a quorum, so we get progress going.
Okay,
And if I have a problem with the 24th, I'll let you know, but I will confirm by letting you know that we have a conference room, so you'll see it.
okay,
Confirm that way.
all right.
I'll get the conference room. All right. Nothing else? All set?
Okay, move we adjourn?
Second the motion, all in favor?
Aye. And so what is it? It's,
At